darkness.
Imprisoning
Complete
me.
and utter darkness.
God.
That's all that's left now. You made it to the end of the year. You made it to the final live podcast of December 2020.
Of this
episode
year.
666.
Yeah.
Of this podcast.
They call that the
I'm
number
Jeff
of
Gerstmann.
the beast.
They
Jeff.
do. Hi. Hey, it's good to be here. Hello. Welcome. Hail
Thanks.
Satan. Jason A. Stryker. How are you doing?
Hey. Oh, I'm great. Just, over here worshiping Satan, the devil.
Nice.
Yes, we're having a great time.
Awesome. Cutting off the heads, drinking the blood.
Just a
Matt
little
Rory?
tip here and there.
That is me. That's a daily occurrence.
Matt Rory, you're how many? Yeah, how much have you spent focusing on yourself, your inner needs, and not the worldly bullshit of the bullshit?
I've been trying lately. I've been really trying hard. I'm looking forward to this little break that we got coming up. No devil worship from me. Maybe not today, but
is that what you say when they come to the door? You're like, maybe not today.
We
Satan.
get a lot of street people around here, like a lot of door to door. The Mormons come a lot. Also, the LDS, I think.
Those are the same.
Latter Day Saints. Those are Mormons, right?
Yeah, those are Mormons.
Yeah.
Adventists, I think. I want to say too, but we get a lot of them around. I don't speak Spanish.
Advent calendars.
Was that Advent calendars? Yeah,
Advent calendars. Okay.
Adventists, yeah, with the calendars, door to door calendars.
That's you get you open up the calendar, and then there's little chocolates inside. Jan Ochoa, you love little chocolates.
I love little chocolates. Back in grade school, we'd have like one advent calendar for the whole classroom, and I never got my one chocolate for the day because the teacher fucking hated me. I don't know if she actually did, but I never got my little chocolate. So now I've lived my whole adult life devoting it to getting little chocolates wherever and whenever I can. And
do you eat the little chocolates, or are you eating the chocolates, or just like hoarding them? Is this like a
I'm hoarding them in hopes of one day putting them together to make big chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
One day.
Let's hear it for Big Chocolate.
Big chocolate?
Yeah. Shout out to Big Chocolate. So there's not a lot going on. It's actually been kind of weird. The whole news thing. Not too much happening here, but we have been playing some games here, wrapping up the end of the year. Jan, a little Monster Sanctuary.
Oh, we're talking games?
Yeah. No, we're talking games.
Yeah, Monster Sanctuary. I don't know if all of this is going to make it into like the audio. Hopefully it does.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Who knows?
Anyway, Monster Sanctuary. It's a neat little game. It's on like Switch, Game Pass. It's pretty much on everything. And the immediate comparison is it's like a Pokemon because you're capturing monsters and you're using monsters to fight monsters. But it kind of feels to me more like a Monster Rancher type of deal rather than a Pokemon. So it's 2D, so it's more of a platformer rather than like the isometric Pokemon style. And you're always battling with a party of 3. From the very beginning, you choose like your starter beast or whatever, and the beasts, just like Pokemon or Pokemon likes, have their different elemental affinities. I started with a fire cat that throws rocks really well and throws fire.
What's his name?
I named it Fire Cat.
Fire Cats.
I don't remember its original name.
Do the beasts have numbers? Is there like a number of the beast? Is there like is there 151? What's the?
I actually don't know how many.
600.
Maybe 666. I hope.
Whoa.
So the battles are like three versus 3, and the neat thing about this battle system versus other games, turn-based games, is you're actually comboing up your damage. So say with your first 2 monsters that you send into battle, you can, whatever hits or like buffs they do, if you buff and it's like all 3 of your monsters, that counts as 3 hits. So that counts up your damage meter. And your second monster goes and they do an an attack that hits 4 times. So that counts as 4 hits, and that ticks up your damage meter even more. By the time you get to your third monster, they're doing like the max amount of damage to the enemy, which is neat. So you can actually turn the tide really, really fast. And it's neat that the combo meter ticks up when you're including when you're doing buffs onto your team. So there's a buff that adds an extra attack, so that counts as 4, and then there's certain parts of the skill trees for each monster that adds an extra hit after they attack. So now they're hitting for like 6 each individual turn, that by the time you get to your final monster, they're pretty much KOing your enemies. And each instance of battle, you're being graded on a scale of 5 stars, and depending on how well you do, if you go 4 to 5, you actually earn the monster egg of... It's random of whichever monsters you're fighting. Say you're fighting like...
Also, there's no Pokeballs involved.
There's no Pokeballs involved.
Okay, cool.
Oh, there's no Pokeballs involved.
No Pokeballs, just eggs. Just eggs.
Is it mostly a speed thing for these battles, like ranking? Because I remember like the first Ni no Kuni had like a similar kind of reward.
Actually, it's kind of it's pretty similar to the Ni no Kuni system, where it's speed and efficiency. So if you're knocking out your enemies in 3-4 turns, you're probably going to get a 4-star rating. It also takes into account how much damage you're taking. So say you have like some buff-ass monsters on your squad, and one is tanking them all because of its abilities, you're still going to get a good rating. So the better rating you get, you have the possibility to get some eggs, and the eggs will hatch into maybe one of the monsters that you had fought. And that part's really neat. And so each monster also has some traversal or world abilities. So you can switch whichever companion monster you have out in the world at any time. And I'm currently rocking with a bird because the bird helps you like glide a bit. Some other monster abilities are like, hey, I'm just going to slash at this wall, or I'm going to make this rock, or now here's a little mushroom.
I'm going to cut down this shrub.
Exactly.
Okay.
And like the flow of the game has been super linear. Your main quest is pretty much to knock out these champion monsters, and these champion monsters are harder enemies that will attack like 2-3 times in one turn versus the one turn. And you're just on a quest to knock those out. And as you knock those bad boys out, your hunter rank goes up, and then the world opens up a bit. I've seen that there is some multiplayer once you increase your rank a bit enough. It's
like
pretty
PvP
neat.
or
PvP.
Okay.
And like in your main base of operations, so say you're like, as you're grinding through the world, you're defeating the same monsters over and over again, but you don't want to put them in your party per se. You could just throw the eggs away at the tower, or any extra monsters you don't want at the tower, and that's building up a separate monster army for these wizards. And it's been really neat. Wow. It's been the world design hasn't been super complex or anything. Like, it'll have like a Metroid style map where you'll see like there's entrances here and exits there, and some of them are gated off because you may not have the traversal abilities yourself or the proper monsters to get through whatever. Another interesting thing this does to your monsters or your monster party is you have to feed them. So there's kind of like a Tamagotchi element where, depending on what you feed them, they'll get certain permanent stat boosts until you feed them something else. So say you feed them a walnut, and like this walnut's like, yo, now I got 150 defense points. But if you feed them like an apple or whatever else, a hazelnut, it'll give them more health instead of the defense points.
Is there any kind of
monsters to the other monsters? But no,
no, at least not yet.
Is there any kind of like gym leader? Like, are you ever fighting other hunters? Like, not there's PvP you said, but like, are there ever any like AI controlled? Like, what's the story overall?
So the story overall is like
the best, or like,
it's
very best.
It's pretty much that. Like, you're like a young member of your family that's been like world renowned hunters, and like the spirit beast you choose at the beginning is like, hey, I'm here to show you the ropes and help you get to the top and stuff. And from there, it's like you're just increasing your hunter rank. There are like 3 other characters you can choose from the beginning, which tie into your beginning monster. and I've started to meet some of those characters. So I'm only assuming that you would fight those characters beginning forward. You do fight some AI people that control other monsters. But other than that, the gym leader equivalent so far has been these champion monsters, which are much tougher than your regular mobs. They're also like the random monsters in the world. They'll eventually respawn, but they're pretty easy to avoid if you just want to run away from them. Yeah,
but you kind of want to level up your monsters and stuff, though, right?
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily want to.
Oh, and the neat thing, and some people that are purists of Pokemon won't like this, but it's shared XP amongst your active party. So
cool.
You have like a main team of 6, and as you're battling with those active 6, all those cool cats are increasing their levels, even if you're not actively using them. You do have like a reserve party of monsters that you could still use as companions, but they're not in your active party, so they're not actively gaining XP. And the skill tree system, as you're leveling up, is actually pretty extensive, and some of it will deal with increasing their health or their mana regen per turn or their crit chance. I have this one cat with a sword right now, and his crit chance, like totaled up with his equipment and the food he's eating, has his crit chance up to like 50%. So he's kind of like the heavy hitter, and he's an adorable little cat with a sword. So, a cat
that does
Zerker.
Sound pretty good.
A cat Zerker.
And it's on Switch, you were saying?
It's on Switch. It's also on Game Pass as well. It runs completely fine on Switch if you're looking to slice some monsters on the go, or
Cool.
develop a monster squad.
Nice squad.
All right, well, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk about some more video games after this. And we're back. That was a fun one.
Yeah.
It's
Nice little break.
Nice. Just sometimes you just got to take a break early and not use Twitch for this show. Maybe ever again. I don't know. I don't know if that's something with. So Twitch made some changes recently that seem to be breaking embedded players, or like throwing these big screens up that say you should be watching this on Twitch, which like that's not our workflow. So I don't know. That's I've been we might just be, this show might not be on Twitch anymore in the new year anyway. It was all the live video was always a premium thing, and maybe it's time to go back to that for 2021.
Jeff, speaking of premium.
Yes, speaking of premium, Matthew Rory, director.
I have to do my ad read somehow.
Premium.
If you're not watching this and you're not Giant Bomb Premium, we have a 30-day free trial on sale until 12/31. It's giantbomb.com/winter20, winter20. I'm told we have some good premium content coming up next week. So sign up now, and that's the end of that pitch.
Yeah.
You heard right, Matthew Rory.
Yeah.
All this sacrificing that we're doing today is going to be archived and will be made available to you.
That's right. The blood drenched hang on. The power, the hellfire within. There's gosh. So yeah, where were we? Video games.
Monster Sanctuary. Yeah. I'm raising
Monster
monsters.
Sanctuary.
None of them believe in the devil yet, but I'll guide them to the darkness.
Yeah, is there like a toggle you can flip to?
Not yet. Not that I found. Okay. Maybe I just my rank isn't high enough.
Can you make the monsters do it?
Yet?
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna assume there's breeding somehow. Somehow. I haven't been able to evolve any of them just yet, so maybe my little mushroom guy can be like a bigger mushroom guy. Who knows?
Okay.
Who knows?
Wow.
That's all I needed to know.
Yeah.
Right.
Speaking of bigger mushroom guys, Matt Rory.
Hey, that's me.
World of Warcraft. So this World of Warcraft for like a day and a half there was like the biggest selling PC game of all time, and maybe it is again if all these Cyberpunk returns, like knocked it off the perch or something.
Does that actually roll back the number of like? Right.
Good. That would depend on the supply chain kind of like bookkeeping. I would suppose. I honestly can't imagine there will be a significant percentage of refunds being people seeking out. I'm actually really curious. We should run a poll or something to see how many people bought that game and are actually going to try and get a refund. Because I have a feeling if it's easy enough, you'll do it, but might as well. But I have a feeling a lot of people just sit tight and wait for patches. But I'm really curious.
I wonder. I do wonder how that'll go. We'll get into Cyberpunk in a little bit, I guess, because there is more stuff happened with that. I thought we were done, but more stuff happened with that over the last week. But I want to talk about this World of Warcraft.
Okay, Jeff,
I
what are your
was surprised when they put out the release saying this expansion is now the best-selling PC game of all time, or whatever. Like, that kind of caught me off guard. I know World of Warcraft is still big, but boy, you don't really hear a lot of people talking about it. It's just kind of this quiet giant, like a lot of games when they kind of get out of the public eye a little bit. Like, it's not to say they're small. No one in our circles is talking about Roblox, but I'm pretty sure Roblox is still doing okay.
It's interesting.
What's up with WoW?
There were a lot of bad. I thought Battle for Azeroth was one of the worst expansions they've ever done. So I took the last year off. I haven't played. I've been playing Final Fantasy 14 instead. But this one seems a lot more competent. I was really worried about the development process because it was delayed by a month. Obviously, everybody's working from home, and it felt like it could have been a real disaster, but they turned out to make a pretty decent product. I haven't run into any bugs or anything like that, so it all seems to be working pretty well. And of course, people are home board, and that is probably the ripest soil to plant an MMO expansion into. I'm not surprised that it's selling really well. I'm not surprised that it's doing okay. It seems like it's pretty well done. So I've been playing a bunch of that. It's been out for about 4 weeks now, I think. They did a level shrink, so now your max level is 60 again compared to 120, what it used to be.
Oh wow!
So you kind of are going into the version of the afterlife from the WoW world. So you're finding all these dead characters. I haven't seen too many like real callbacky kind of stuff. There's one big one in one of the zones, but you're kind of interacting with characters from back in the past of WoW, and you're obviously a lot of the current leaders of the free world too. So it's kind of interesting storylines. The biggest thing I think they've done well is this roguelike dungeon called Torghast, where you can run basically a 6th level kind of mini dungeon. You can solo it by yourself, or you can do it with a group if you want to. But you go through, and it's all procedurally generated. You have different powers you can find throughout the world. So I like do that solo on my paladin. It's kind of similar to the dungeon they did. There was a crack elf dungeon in Legion, I think, where you were doing the same kind of thing. Yeah, they were like mana starved, so they're basically like crack addicts.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So it's really fun. It's I can't say it's anything more or less WoW than we've had in the past, but they've made some good system changes. They've compressed all the abilities a little bit more, so you're getting abilities every time you level up if you are leveling up a new character. It's solid, and I was planning on playing some of that today here on giantbomb.com after this very podcast. So if you want to stick around and maybe do a dungeon with me or a Torghast with me, I'll be online maybe about 3 p.m. Pacific, I think.
Or is more than is WoW something you can kind of do solo dolo?
Yeah, totally. One of our moderators put up a 8,000 word essay. Let me double check and make sure I don't want to send out the wrong name. I believe it was Mento. No, Zombie Pie. Zombie Pie put up a blog about Final Fantasy 11, which is one of the last MMOs I can really remember where you really have to group up to level up. I know they've changed a lot of the systems a while back, but when I first played that, compared to WoW, like WoW, even the original WoW vanilla, you could get through the end game by yourself, which is always one of the biggest things for me when I play these kind of games. Final Fantasy 14 is the exact same way. Just play whatever you want to. You don't have to necessarily do dungeons all the time. Actually, Final Fantasy 14, you are forced into dungeons for a fair amount. But WoW, you can totally do by yourself, which is really one of the best parts about it. I don't always want to be in a group. I don't always want to be palling around with people playing co-op. So you can, even if I want to do a dungeon, I only play tanks, so I can just queue up for a dungeon and get in right away. So today was the one weird thing about it, I would say, not super weird, but there's a lot of gates so far in progression. So if you want to progress up your bond with this group you have like 4 different groups you can kind of join to progress their goals. In order to do that, you have to get renowned with that group, and the renown is locked behind weekly quests. So you're basically every Monday, you might as well just not do anything because you've already done everything for the week. It seems really geared towards people who want to play a fair amount of alts in that sense, and I kind of lost the taste for that a while back. I'm going to pick 1 or 2 characters and kind of go with them. But if you have 10 characters that you want to level up and do all the alt stuff, there are weekly quests that you can't get in faster than what they allow you. So now if you start up an alt, if I just hit 60 today with one of my characters, he'd be they'd be 4 weeks behind where my main character is. So there's some frustration there, but there's always something new to do, which is obviously the whole point of an expansion. So
it's kind of the whole point of an MMO. I mean, if you're going to pay them a monthly fee, I think that's the distinction now, right? I mean, that used to be like, oh, well, we can't keep the servers running if people don't pay for them. But now there's so many live games and online games and all this other stuff that don't have that monthly fee and stuff. I feel like WoW kind of has to go the extra mile on that stuff. You feel like, I mean, yeah, it sounds like that they have weeklies and all that other stuff, but like so do a lot of games. Yeah. You feel like they're doing more than the average live game.
I would say so. I mean, in terms of, especially if you have multiple alts, there's a lot of content to go through. There's a bunch of dungeons, Torghast. There's going to be the raid just launched last week, I think.
Keep saying Torghast, and it sounds more perverse every time the word comes out of anyone's mouth. You can do Torghast.
It's just a pretty fun little like roguelike kind of system that I sure a lot of thought. It actually came out at a really, really difficult difficulty level, and they nerfed it very heavily last week, so I'm going to try to explore a little bit more of that today, a little higher level. But it's kind of the jail where they keep all of the souls of the dead people from Azeroth. So you're finding these characters who are dead, long dead, and you're kind of trying to rescue Thrall and Jaina and all these other people from the Maw, which is their big new zone, kind of end game zone. The biggest problem with the Maw is that you're supposed to be like the actual hell of Warcraft, and you can't mount there, so you're just walking around everywhere, which makes you feel like a real step backwards. But
I mean, that does sound like hell, though. Like, honestly, like what would hell for World of Warcraft be? It'd be like, well, you got to walk it.
I would say I'm enjoying it so far. I'm not like super passionate about the story or anything like that. It's a little disjointed because you are kind of going through the zones in the way that they want you to. There's a storyline with a beginning and an end, as opposed to the other expansions recently where you could pick like any direction you want to go and you have their individual zone storyline. So it's a little bit better in that regard, but it also does feel a little disjointed. I will say one of my biggest pet peeves with WoW has always been the dumbass pop culture references, and they really dialed it back this time. So there's not as much of that. The weirdest one I saw, there was a Torghast boss called Patrician Cromwell, which I'm pretty sure is a Patricia Cornwell reference, which is pretty obscure for a WoW audience. I could be way wrong in that. Patricia Cornwell is a very famous author of, crime books, I guess, mystery novels.
Well, it's like maybe someone on the team was a fan.
Hey, throw that kind of stuff in there when there's like you're rescuing 4 turtles from a sewer and their rat leader. That kind of stuff always struck me as very, very forced. So they really dialed that back a lot this time. So
yeah, I think yes, I think because God, like there was some of that stuff pretty early on. Because I'm trying to remember.
There was. It's always.
Like, I feel like in the first year and a half or 2 years of WoW, there were definitely like some characters,
Zelda references and whatnot. Yeah.
Right.
Even insofar as like going up to Cataclysm, like Cataclysm redid a bunch of the old world zones, and they added in a whole fucking Rambo storyline to Red Ridge Mountains.
Which Rambo? Like First Blood? Is it just like you come back to town? And
yes, he basically does that. Let me see if I can remember the character's name. Redfall.
Is it Rambo?
It's Keishan. So if you haven't played that storyline, it's kind of excruciating because their pop culture references are usually so obvious and on the nose that it's not even funny. It's just like, oh, haha, I get it. You're referring to, the Red Hot Chili Peppers and the name of this quest, and it's kind of always been super lame. So I'm kind of glad they kind of went away from that a little bit here.
Did they ever give you armor that's just a sock?
I haven't seen sock armor yet. There are a million new cosmetics. One of the things I do like about it is that it's pretty reserved in terms of the upsell for the premium. They do have a store where you can buy cosmetics and stuff, just like Path of Exile and everything else, which is weird when you're already paying $15. But if you haven't played in a long time, you can get WoW tokens now. They're like 100 grand for gold for like a month of gameplay, which is pretty easy to do on a month-to-month basis. If you want to make 117k or 117,000 gold, I think is what they are now on US servers, you can play for free effectively. It's not super simple to get that much gold every month, but if you're playing the auction house, you can probably do it pretty easily. So
was there a way to, has there been a Is that like ISK at all in EVE Online? Are people like trading that out for real
No.
money? Is there like some bad, like dark money laundering economy in WoW now?
Not really.
Other than the one that was always there with, gold farming and whatever, but
Yeah. I haven't seen, honestly, they've really clamped down a bunch on gold farming kind of stuff. I don't see that spam anymore. I think
when you're talking about getting 100,000 gold in a month and having that be like relatively easy, then I guess maybe that's why. Because I remember, God, what the was amount was like 10 gold, and that was hard.
No, it was the paladin and the warlock had their special mounts, but it cost like 7,000. But expert writing, I think, was 1,000 gold in vanilla, which was very, very difficult to get to. Yeah.
Expert writing.
The economy is really weird.
The
economy is really weird right now because it's first month. The first time I do, and this is going to sound really lame. The first day of any expansion, I usually just go out there and find mine and herbs and sell them in the auction house. And I made a lot of money right off the bat. So if you do that kind of stuff and you're smart about it and you want to spend a little time, you can effectively play for free. I think you still have to buy the expansions, is what is going on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's doing well, and I was really surprised to see it not be a wreck when it launched. My expectations were pretty low because of the delay and because of Battle for Azeroth was really a bad expansion. And the rumor has always been that they have an A team and B team working on alternating expansions, and one's always good, the other one's never quite as good, which so far has pretty much borne itself out. I don't know. I doubt it's that simple. But it's still pretty fun to play, especially if you're locked at home in quarantine. You have like a couple hours to kill. World quests are still there. You're making the numbers go up. Eternally.
Okay. Well, now you're talking my language. Jason, what have you been into lately?
Just doing the backlog stuff. So I've been checking out like Miles Morales. I got to finish that up. Spiritfarer is on my next to-do list. But other than that, like, it's been kind of fun going back to, like, my son's discovering old like 360 games that he's really into, like Toy Story 3, and like just seeing that like run really well on like the Series X has been a lot of fun. So we've been like pulling out stuff here and there. Just for me, it's fun to see how it runs, and him is just like, these are brand new games. Why didn't you tell me we had these? So just trying to get caught up for because we're gonna have Game of the Year stuff coming up pretty quick. So that's we'll be that'll be, we've got our break to kind of catch up on the last of those games. That's where my Final Fantasy VII remake play is gonna happen. We'll see how that goes. And I got to play a little more Last of Us 2, but boy, I don't much care for that game.
If you could choose one or the other, Jeff, would you rather not play any games at all over the break, or just have a lot of uninterrupted time to play the games that I know you have to basically play the games that you missed out on.
I mean, a lot of uninterrupted time for games would be crazy right now because I just don't have that anymore. Like that's I've got some time after the baby goes to sleep to get some games in before then I have to go to bed. So there's like a 4 or 5 hour chunk there. But no, it used to be that I could just go like, well, let's just play this for 10 hours straight or whatever. That's just not a reality anymore.
Yeah.
This is a recent one that's popped up on my list to perhaps try and tackle before Game of the Year conversations. But should I dip into Microsoft Flight Simulator?
It's a beefy game. You really do need pretty amazing system to play it. I don't know what you have right now, but have you tried that on Xbox Series X, Jeff?
It's not out there yet.
Really? Okay.
I believe the console version is, they just said it was going to come to consoles, I think sometime next year. And so it's not there quite yet, but like this older machine, I got it running. So it scales quite a bit. So I installed it, and I respect that game from a distance. I don't know that I will ever get much out of it. But I installed it, and it was a weird hassle to install at the time. I think they've smoothed out a couple of things.
They still have that thing where you download the launcher and then you have to download the game. So if you don't do it all in one row, you'll have to wait like 3 hours to download it because it's huge. It's
it's large. It's like 90 gigs, or maybe it's bigger than that. Anyway, I think it's worth seeing because it is crazy. But getting to the best parts of that, like, you kind of at some point have to like be better at flying the planes than I'm ever going to be. So seeing people going like, oh, I flew over this thing, and look at their weird simulation of the world and how broken it is here or how accurate it is here. Like that stuff's all really fascinating. But you know, I got up and tried to fly like SFO to LAX, and then sat down and realized like, oh, this is going to take the time it takes to fly from SFO to LAX. Like and I'm just pointed in a direction. Yeah, and it's just like I can look at the ground and go like, "Yep, high fives down there. It sure does suck." And had a moment where I was like, I'm not gonna do this. So there's probably like a version of that and maybe they have some better like quick start to interesting area type things in there that I just didn't find. But it's that's what it is, right? I mean, it's flight simulator. It's really well done. It's a flight simulator. You know,
it's on Game Pass, so it's as long as you don't have like a bandwidth cap, it's no penalty to try it on PC. Okay. I enjoyed the little bit I did of it, but it's still it's a lot. Even if you enable all of the assisted stuff, it's still a lot to deal with. So I
had trouble getting a plane in the air because like menus. I don't know. Like I was trying to pick airports and runways, and then just like the go button never appeared. So I spent a week going like, what am I doing wrong? And then realized I think it was just some glitch.
Also, the big thing for me, one of the weird things about the Xbox Game Pass is that a lot of the games will have a lot of trouble starting if you don't install it on your C drive, which I know there are fixes to. I can't believe it's still a problem in that app, but like I have had to reinstall Halo multiple times for our community co-op streams, just because the Xbox Game Pass app does not really want to work with games that are installed on anything but your boot drive. So having a 250 or 200 gig game or whatever it is on my C drive, which is only 500 gigs, was also kind of a limiting factor for me. I know there's weird arcane ways to fix that bug, and I just have not been bothered to dig through my INI files or whatever that it needs.
Yeah, that stuff is weird. I have not run into that because I typically have enough space, but that stuff is not the only person I've heard complain about some of the.
Oh, it's prevalent. It's
It's weird. It's a weird app. Like I've had a lot of problems with Xbox apps specifically not being streamable through OBS. Like they just don't show up for some reason. Maybe there's an overlay or something fucking it up. But
there's a different. So a lot of those UWP apps, or whatever you want to call them, kind of stuff that's running out of the Windows Store, which all of the Game Pass stuff is. That stuff can be a little strange to get the OBS hooks into. So sometimes you have to use display capture instead of game capture and all this other stuff. But like by and large, I feel like that has been not an issue for me, but like it comes up, but generally speaking, it hasn't been too big of a deal. Like I was playing some Minecraft. Heard of this Minecraft?
Yeah.
You heard of this thing?
Yeah.
Minecraft. Gosh.
I think I saw it at Target.
Yeah, no, it's everywhere. They got a Minecraft drink at the Starbucks. They got wherever you look, there's a Minecraft.
That movie come out yet?
The Minecraft movie?
What? Maybe.
What? That was the guy from Always Sunny, right? Doing that or something?
Mila Jovovich?
Rob McElhenney? Yeah. The Minecraft movie? Anyway, Minecraft movie is on its way. It's being made right now out of crystal.
I know they did the thing for Netflix, right? There was like the
Minecraft story
mode thing.
Story mode.
There we go.
They put out their ray tracing stuff it's been in beta for a long time. They finally kind of published the real ray tracing Minecraft stuff, and so I've been spending a lot of time with that, and it's fucking beautiful. Just installing the kind of, and it's a hassle because you have to go out of your way to find different textures and stuff. Like they don't pre-install a pack that's like, hey, here's the base level textures, but ready for ray tracing. Like you still have to go find that. And some dude made one that is like, here's the vanilla textures, but with RTX support. And then NVIDIA put one out that's like, here's better, different textures that also has RTX support. And so I'm going with NVIDIA's textures because it makes the ore glow and light comes off of iron ore and stuff in a way that looks kind of badass. And it's just, when we were playing Minecraft every Friday for a while there, I was experimenting with a lot of packs for the Java version that added like path traced lighting and all that sort of stuff. But this feels like a level beyond that, where you're really just seeing light shining through a window, creating realistic light on your floor that moves as the time of day happens. I mean, some of those Java ones do that as well, but like there's just a quality to it. And it's a little bit easier to get some of that stuff up and looking right, honestly. And so I've just been like starting new worlds, like, but for a long time in the beta, it was like they had a bunch of preset worlds that were just like, here's this Coliseum, you can go look at it and look at the ray traced lighting. But I got to a point where it's like, okay, getting those textures allowed me to just create my own world and play the way I want to play and not have to go into some weird creative mode thing. And so I've
this won't work on just any old map, will it? Like you have to download textures for specific maps, or
no. So once you get the texture packs installed, you can go start a new world and do whatever. So as long as you can enable those texture packs, sometimes you're going to join a server that might have texture packs enabled that are forced on you that may overrule your stuff or something like that. That's always possible. I don't play a lot of online in that version of the game, so I'm not quite sure how that would work. But no, this is you can just go create. So I just created a cave and then just dug weird bendy things into it to then see when the sun would rise and the sun would be shining right in the door of the cave, you could see it kind of moving around corners and stuff like that, and or not moving around corners, but like the light shining around corners and around surfaces in a very realistic way that was just it's kind of fucking crazy. And yeah, it's awesome. I was really taken aback by how good it looks.
If people want to see this in action, I believe we had a play date last week called a Ray Date, where Brad and Vinny took a look at some of this stuff. I think for me, I'm less impressed by some of the ray tracing stuff that gets Brad off in a lot of ways, like especially the Quake 2 stuff. It never quite looks, but I've seen some of the Minecraft stuff and it really does look pretty exceptional.
So I've been trying the Quake 2 ray tracing stuff on and off for a while, just playing little bits of it here and there, and it's like it looks nice, but it's that sort of thing where it's like a lot of those effects can get baked in. Sometimes it was harder to see in Quake 2, like it's doing it because that's the whole crux of what they've built, but some of that stuff didn't always show
when you turn the light
but like
off. He turned the sun off at one point in the stream, and once you do that, you see a lot more of the effects. If it's just like the full bright kind of maps overworld, it looks like it did back in the day for the most part. But I know the tech is super interesting underneath, but I think something like Minecraft or Rise of the Tomb Raider, was it Shadow of the Tomb Raider that had that first big ray tracing demo, I think?
Yeah, I think so.
That looked really impressive too. So
yeah, but the Minecraft stuff is like, that's some real deal shit. Like, because you can just get in there and play with it and get into creative mode and be like, let's put up like some colored windows here. So now we've created some colored lighting. Let's do, you can really just kind of play with it in a way that, you kind of can't in Quake 2. Like the Quake 2 stuff, it lets you adjust the light coming in so that you can adjust the sun position and light position, all that sort of stuff. And so that gets a little more tech demo-y, whereas Minecraft just has these quiet moments of brilliance, right? Where you're like, that's a really fucking good looking sunset. Like, or like you're out in the world running around, and because of the way they've done the lighting, it's just very easy to look at it and go like, sun's setting, because you're looking at the ground and seeing just how the light is being cast on it. And like time of day gets a lot easier to tell in situations like that, which I was really taken aback by. It's probably like Control was the first thing where it's like, oh, this is like a step up with but it's like, it's really good reflections. It's stuff like that. And a lot of games are like, hey, look at these puddles. We have the sickest, wettest streets in the game.
Ooh.
And that's awesome. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of these sick, wet puddles, but seeing lighting and more kind of fully realized implementations with stuff like Minecraft that's the stuff that you look at and go like, okay, when these cards get another step or two up, and that's something that you can kind of do in any game, and it's not just the fucking wet streets of Night City. That's something that I think will be dramatic and will look pretty awesome. But
did you pop into the Nether at all to see how that looked?
No, not yet. I need to make Obsidian and do all that stuff. I've actually been like re-rolling new worlds over and over again and going like, no, I don't like this one. I don't like this one.
You want to get into speed running Minecraft?
Yeah, exactly. I need some good seeds. Some speed on seeds.
I've been thinking a lot of what games I want to go back and try when I get a 3080 at some point in 2021. Control was definitely kind of at the top of my list because I did see a bunch of really impressive stuff. I know the lighting probably isn't the main part of that, but like the shadow reflections in the mirrors and windows and things like that looked really cool. It's weird. Like I think only like 70 or 80 games actually support ray tracing right now. That's what I heard. Like of all the people that have actually bothered to implement it, it's not a huge number, but
really, I would have thought it was much more because considering like this generation of video cards and even the last generation were so ray traced. You know,
I could be way wrong on that. I've heard it's a pretty limited number, but I could be way wrong.
Huh. I think it's a case also where the benefit of ray tracing isn't really always huge, and now I think now we're at a point where the consoles have some implementation of ray tracing, and we've got a second generation of cards out that support ray tracing. Like I feel like that number is only going to get higher, right? Like it's at some point you're like, okay, well, yeah, right, yes, in theory.
What I've
got one. That counts as out to me.
I know where he lives. I should go over and take it from him. I have been just trying to get one of those new cards, and it's impossible right now. I'm just waiting months. I heard the AMD cards are okay too in terms of just like a pure performance, but they don't do RTX as well. But the DLSS stuff, I don't know if you guys have discussed DLSS stuff on this podcast recently, but that seems really, really impressive. You can basically upscale, have your video card pumping out something like 640 by 480 and upscale it to a higher resolution in the background, and it'll like automatically, through the power of the cloud AI or whatever, make it look a lot nicer. There's somebody who did it for Death Stranding at like running at like 320 x 160 upscale to 4K, and it didn't look bad. And that to me seems more like the magic of the new video card systems that I really kind of want to, because I'm already upscaling even Valhalla, which I've been playing. I have a 1080 Ti, and those AC games usually run pretty well. Origins was pretty demanding even at the time, but this one, as I installed it predetermined that I should be upscaling or I should be downscaling to 70% of the resolution to get a good frame rate. So things look a little bit blurry because I don't have DLSS or anything, a video card that can support it. So it looks a little blurry the way that I'm playing it, but it's a much better frame rate for me. And even like WoW, you have the option to do this. So it seems like resolution scaling is being implemented in a lot more games, and the DLSS stuff just seems to make all that work really, really well.
Yeah, it's been really neat to see that stuff. That's been key for. I'm trying to think, like that ended up being a big deal for me playing Watch Dogs Legion on PC, which I ended up moving to console because like that game did not run super well and at launch, and I understand that they maybe have made some bigger changes optimization wise that maybe that PC version will run a little better for me now, but like DLSS was a big part of getting that to run at an acceptable frame rate. And then Cyberpunk, of course, is goddamn mess, but DLSS definitely helps get it to where I can play it at a more than acceptable frame rate for sure.
Cool.
And that's something that like, I've got a 2080 Ti in this machine, and that's it's fine. Like I need to do CPU stuff, I think, before I do. So that was going to be my thing. I was like, oh, well, while everyone's fucking trying to fucking punch each other,
get their hands on
the face for video cards, I'm gonna sideway around that and go build this AMD machine. And then no, all that shit's gone too. So finding a new CPU and getting, I was gonna go get like a 59 buck.
They're tough to find too, apparently. The new AMD cards, the 8 cards, everything.
All that stuff got sucked up. All that stuff got sucked up, and so now I'm just like stuck with this, hoping that nothing else breaks. As this machine is getting up there in years. Like the week that we stopped going into the office, the cooler on my CPU broke. And I feel like I got an order in just as things were getting just as they were like, hey, shipping's about to slow way down. It's going to take a month for you to get anything. Like I got like the last overnight shipment or something to get that fixed. Everything's just been held together with tape ever since. But yeah, I'm due for an upgrade. That's my plan for the new year, is to
it's always fun.
is to just get a new CPU and motherboard and all that other stuff, and probably going to build an AMD machine this time.
Mm.
Cool. I've been pretty happy with my Ryzen. I had one of the ones from earlier this year. I built my systems in February, I think, and it's been really handy to have at home since I've been mostly streaming via this machine. But I still hear the ATI video cards are pretty good price performance wise, but like I said, I hear the RTX stuff is not quite as sharp on PC as it is for the NVIDIA cards. Also, I have a G-Sync monitor, and I don't know if an ATI card. I would love to just get a card upgrade. This has been like 3 years for a 1080 for me.
Yeah.
But they're impossible to find too, so it's kind of a moot point until after the new Bitcoin will suddenly go away.
That's I think the opposite is we'll see how
it seems to be the opposite. It's shocking to me how much I get that the tech is really interesting behind all these cryptocurrencies, but the fluctuations and all of a sudden it just I bought my 1080 Ti right before Bitcoin mining got super hot, and it was worth like twice as much used as it was new, which the problem now is you just can't find them at all. So
yeah, well, that's the thing is I guess I haven't looked into this, but I was under the impression that newer graphics cards were not as good for crypto mining as that era of cards were, but maybe I'm just way off base there. I don't know.
I think NVIDIA actually made some cards targeted towards mining during the bigger part of the swing, but now they had the big controversy, I think, was NVIDIA had one of their third-party board manufacturers just sold their entire supply directly to Bitcoin miners. It never even hit the retail channels. It just went straight to miners. So every time you see something go up, it's sold out within seconds. I've heard all the tricks, like you have to have your phone ready for Apple Pay as soon as it goes live and just hit it with your thumb and maybe it'll go through. But for me, the 1080 Ti has been one of my favorite PC purchases I've ever made. It's not even close to being on its last legs, but I really just want to upgrade it. So, but I'm okay for now. For the next few months, I'll try to convince myself that's true.
That's. I mean, you gotta at this point. We'll get there. We'll get there. Don't worry. They'll let you spend too much money on computer equipment eventually. Trust that. So God, what have I been playing? Minecraft and Cyberpunk, I think, though I haven't really, I'm finished with Cyberpunk, and kind of just dipping back into it as they issue patches, to see if it fixed anything, or if the game ran any better or stuff. It's running like acceptably well on PC. It's not super smooth, but I'm running it ultra with DLSS set to auto, and it's and if I turn down any of the settings, the game doesn't seem to run any better. So why not run it to ultra, I guess. But it's also still glitchy and buggy as hell. Like they put out the 1.05 patch that I guess was supposed to be one of the ones that they were like, we're going to stop taking returns after 12/21 because our patch is going to hit or whatever the hell it was.
It's going to be so good.
And so I loaded it up after that and immediately got like a UI elements frozen on the screen and glitchy. But it was just like, oh, this is still, motorcycles spawning under cars and everything vibrating until it explodes. And it's like, that's fun, but come on.
I heard the PlayStation version, if you went to the settings from the main menu, it wouldn't let you exit. So you just had to reboot your entire PS4 is what I heard.
Cool.
Awesome. Some stuff like that just seemed like the game is so far away from being a game. I don't know. That's unfair. It's people are playing it from front to back, especially on PC, but it still seems like you need to wait that one out a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I finished it. Like that's the thing. The kind of larger thing here is like, unless you're the sort of person that's going to play it a zillion different ways, which some people definitely dissect those games that way. I played it, got the ending. Tried to get the ending I wanted to. Like I decided 15 hours in, there was like, you know what? I would like to do this for this character. And that's the direction I played the rest of the game with like that in mind. It was like, this is how I feel about these characters and this is the direction I'm going to go. Let's see if the ending meets me where I want it to be. And it tries to, but then the ending was super glitched and messed up and broken. And I don't, like in a really wild way that like made it hard for me to get the thing I wanted to do the first time through, but the second time I did. But like it kind of, on some level, it doesn't matter what they do to the game now because I already completed the story.
Sure.
And I already had my story. I did the things I would do as a character in that world. I could go back and be like, well, what if I was evil? Or whatever. But like, I played that game the way I intended to play it. And I'm never going to get that chance again. That ship has sailed, so they can fix it all the way. And they will. And some people will have some different time with that down the road. But
is the story enough? Like, if bugs weren't a thing and glitches weren't a thing, is the story enough to want to do those separate paths for you, Jeff?
No. I mean, so there's some stuff near the end where like it seems like there's some cascading choices you make pretty late in the game. So if I wanted to see things go different ways, I still have some pretty easy options I could do from my current save. That would let me kind of play things out a handful of different ways. I'm not sure if you roll back even further than that, if there's any kind of different, choices you make earlier on that would matter there. But so people in the chat are saying there's a bug right now that like if your save file gets above a certain file size, it corrupts. And so I guess the more items you craft, the larger your file size gets, which is pretty wild.
Son of a bitch.
I'm honestly kind of impressed those save files are less than 8 megs. I remember like Deus Ex, the original one, would just have like 100 meg save files after a while because of all the item placement and stuff. I'm assuming it's not saving the locations of every item in the game, but that's a pretty. I don't get why they need it to be that small. Like it seems like I don't know if it's an arbitrary file limitation, but 8 meg seems like a really, really small file size for a save in a game like this.
Yeah, but Jan, I think the question is like to kind of further answer your question. I think there are parts of that story. There are parts of the main story that I definitely enjoyed.
Okay,
like my time with the Keanu Reeves character, I really liked delving into his backstory as much as possible and some of his side stuff and thought that some of the interactions between your character and that character are really fascinating. Okay. And they do some interesting twists on what is an incredibly familiar kind of cyberpunk concept. And I thought that stuff's all right. There's like a couple of side quests. There's like, kind of the romantic interest stuff. Some of those are all right. Like kind of like subtle moments, though I found all the sex scenes in that game to be, or at least the ones that I saw, to be really shitty or like tonally off in a game where
not cyber enough.
So not cyber enough. Sure. Yeah. No, for a game that is so like fucking, you want it, which kind of dick do you want? Or do you not want one? Or what do you want that? For a game that's that, I think that there's something about the way that I don't know, like this sex scenes just didn't do it for me, man. Just needed to be either filthier. I don't know. For a game that is like trying to be as like weirdly like edgy, shocking, like whatever, like the sex scenes feel very neutered. It feels very like someone wanted to try to have an actual romantic moment, but they kind of don't achieve that either. And the whole thing just whatever. That whole game just tonally is fucking all over the place. So whatever. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess maybe that kind of gets us into the news here. There's
the news.
Breaking news at this hour. There's not a ton of news because a lot of people are just on break already. Yeah. A lot of companies already kind of closing up shop for the holidays. We're
sending out their digital Christmas cards and whatnot.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wrapping up.
We're here through Wednesday, and then and that's that. But so the big one, which they pulled Cyberpunk off of the PlayStation Store. Stop me if you've heard this one before, because that's like the craziest story. I'm right. That's
unprecedented.
Sony issued this statement alongside the announcement. Sony Interactive Entertainment strives to ensure a high level of customer satisfaction. Therefore, we will begin to offer a full refund for all gamers who have purchased Cyberpunk 2077 via PlayStation Store. Sony Interactive Entertainment will also be removing Cyberpunk 2077 from PlayStation Store until further notice. And then they go on to say how you can get a refund. pulling that game from the store is some wild stuff. This happened. Sony issued this on its own. There was no kind of like companion announcement from CD Projekt Red. That their announcement came later in the form of like a financial disclosure of them saying like, "Hey, we talked to him."
Very passive voice kind of announcement too. Like things happened and they're still happening.
Yes. And maybe some of that is the English translation of a Polish statement and all that sort of stuff. So I don't know about that, but so this is, let's see, what else has happened. CD Projekt Red had been talking about refunds a little bit up until this point, and maybe that's what triggered Sony to do this, because they were like, yeah, go to Sony if you want a refund. But apparently
Sony's like, what?
Hang on, what? And to be fair, some of this is, Sony has probably I don't know what Nintendo's is, but I was going to say Sony might have the worst refund policy between like Steam and Xbox. Like Xbox is a little bit better than this, but it's not.
I think Sony's digital versions, you couldn't even, if you downloaded it, if you bought it, you could refund it. But if you downloaded it, it's cut off. So pretty major.
And even then, it's like they want you to jump through some hoops and stuff, and don't want to do it over and over again. And so you can kind of talk people into getting a refund if you get the right customer support.
Yeah, I had a situation where I bought like the PS4 version or the PS3 version instead of a PS4 version or something, and they hooked me right up. That was cool. That was the one time that I had to use it. Yeah. But so I got lucky, I guess.
Nice. So they do refunds, but it is not something that they have a robust system in place to handle the way a Steam does or something like that. So so that may have factored into this, where suddenly like you had a publisher of a game pointing people at Sony and their kind of undercooked refund system, and Sony was like, whoa. And so that game got pulled. It is still, as of last time I looked, it was not there either. So I'm an idiot. This was my response to the this is what I did when the game got pulled from PlayStation Store.
Oh, Jeff. You beat it already.
No, I know. I don't know why I did this. Other than it was $10 off on Amazon. I bought a copy of the PS4 version of Cyberpunk. Also part of me was like, I want to kind of see a physical disc version of this in case I ever want to see version 1.0 running on a base PS4. I can now do that.
We can always relive that.
I don't know. That was a dumb thing to do, but it was that perfect combination of like, oh shit, it's getting pulled. What if it never comes back? I was like, what if they pull physical copies next? I was like, wait, Amazon's got $10 off right now. That's fucking ridiculous. This game's brand new. Are they just trying to blow them out because the game is not good? Huh. Guess I should buy one. It was like a dumb fucking like logic leap one after the next until suddenly 2 days later that stupid thing showed up, and I'm an idiot. So Best Buy went ahead and said that they are going to give refunds on physical copies, but they and there was like some memos out there kind of indicating that they were only going to take refunds until yesterday, till the 21st.
Okay.
Really?
And that the implication being that like there's a patch coming, and so we're only going to take refunds until that. But like the patch hit, and I have not seen any console players be like, "Oh, it's night and day. Everything's better now." Like it seems like PS4 players are still like, "Hey, this game is still funky in way too many ways." So that seemed like not enough. GameStop has issued a memo to its based on reporting. GameStop seems to have issued a memo saying, yes, we will take these games back at our store, and that they are sending them back to a warehouse and marking them as defective.
Oh, shit.
Those are going to come out used in GameSpot in months, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Or can GameStop even afford to do that? Or are they going to have to try to get their money back from CD Projekt Red for the copies they bought and be like, hey, what the hell? There's a lot of news swirling around. News is maybe not the word, but there is smoke on the streets. There's a lot of talk about potential investors or investors potentially investigating class action lawsuits, or that they have been misled by the game's publisher to invest in the company, and that they have been misled as investors. So this is fucking falling apart fast. And it's just, or it fell apart fast. I don't think there's been any real developments on this front for the past day or so. But I think that like the idea that like they're only going to refund your physical copies if you emailed them or got in touch with them by yesterday seems really shitty.
Totally.
They gave a pretty short deadline, and the game is still in a state. So
because what if people bought this as like Christmas gifts for friends or whatever?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, they're not going to be able to get the refunds at all? Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So this is still a mess. This is like an ongoing hot mess. And I don't know that I have seen anything quite like this ever before in video games. This is like this is the steam the steam that this gained in terms of just like, oh, everyone, like even Microsoft, who already had a better automated refund system in place, they kind of came out and said, we will be taking refunds on this indefinitely. Like they didn't offer any weird cutoff or 12/21 or anything like that. They were just like, if you want to refund, until further notice, we will be accepting refunds kind of outside of our normal window. And so and they were the marketing partner for this game. Remember, like they did like the Cyberpunk version of the Xbox and all that other shit. So
yeah, Keanu came out during that press conference.
Right. Yeah.
Jeez.
And it's funny to see like there are other companies out there doing marketing around Cyberpunk that are like, the best way to play Cyberpunk is get an whatever it is, Alienware. I don't even know. But I've seen a couple of different companies that clearly did some kind of weird tie-in with Cyberpunk that have gone ahead and done it. And at some point, you have to imagine they're weighing it out and going like, are we now damaging our brand by coming out and saying like, yeah, Cyberpunk, you should play it on our computer? Like, it's definitely been some cases of some people backing away from stuff like that. But fascinating times. It is a wild situation. I think the version that is on PC is still in need of a lot of help. So like when you get a few rungs down, I mean, hey, I saw credits. Like it's not, is it satisfactory? Is it like is it like an early access level of broken? Yes, it's like a. Yeah, it's funky. You all froze up. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Oh,
hi, you're back. Yeah, I've never quite seen anything like this, but like, yeah. So the PC version, I think, is still like fairly unacceptable in a handful of ways. And once you get down like several levels of hardware down into the base level Xbox One and PS4, like, hey, what are we
playable? Yeah.
Right.
I will say the highlight reels of the bugs and the glitches are, from an outside observer, just hilariously entertaining. There are some of the best bugs that I've ever seen in a game. In terms of, it would infuriate me if I was playing, but some of the stuff, driving past a car and the thing where the cars will explode out of nowhere, and it looks like a early Gary's Mod kind of thing if you just watch the highlight reels of the bugs, because it is just hilarious. I say that knowing that it's pretty mean to the people who made the game. People really want to enjoy it, but it is a gold mine for entertainment for people looking from the outside in.
I think for me, the experience I had with it is that a lot of the bugs through the first half of the game or so, or 2/3, were bugs like that. There was just like, oh man, that's something crazy happened in the distance, and you look over and you're like, oh, all that AI over there just broke, and you just look at it and go like, all those cars are crashing into each other and exploding, and something fucked up happened over there. Look at that, that's hilarious. Or, hey, this person T-posed. Hey, this person is clipping through this car. It's just like stuff you look at it and go like, all right, this is goofy as shit, but it's not like harming my experience other than the immersion or whatever the hell. But the bugs I experienced later on were the things like walk up to a quest giver and the dialogue UI doesn't show up. And so you're like, well, guess I'm fucked. Or fast travel system completely breaks until I quit and reload the game. Or UI elements getting stuck on screen. Like I played through the last parts of the game with just like a bunch of weird lines that weren't even like default UI. I don't even know what it was. It was like under my targeting reticle, there was just a half full status bar out of nowhere. And then after that last patch, I loaded it back up. And so if you get into a stealth situation, you kill a bunch of guys, eventually a bar fills up that just is like detecting, and when the bar fills up, you'll be detected by enemy net runners, whatever the hell. That UI element just got stuck on screen. And so I played for another half an hour because I was in the middle of something with that just rammed stuck on the screen, and sucks. Just stuff sucks.
That does. Yeah, that does.
So, there's probably still a lot of work for them to do. And I really feel for the people that are doing the work on the game, because they have had a fucking rough go of it leading up to launch, and then on the other end of it, like here we are. There's still a lot of work to do, and that fucking sucks.
I know. Have they done anything to fix the epilepsy trigger in the game other than adding like a note to it?
They had a note they made the flashing less severe or something like that, so it wasn't as dangerous. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know that I've done any of those sequences since they added the warning. I think I had gotten to the other half, or I'd gotten past those points in the game, I think, by the time that they added even the warning. So I'm not sure. But yeah, I don't, I'm not close to this studio. I don't know truly where the fault lies or whatever. It sure sounds like management kind of
got ahead of themselves
did a number on the rank and file on the developers of that studio, and kind of it's a fucked up situation. And now they're out there kind of saying like, oh, you're right. Yeah, we maybe should have worked on the old version, the console version's a little bit harder. They did kind of admit some amount of fault there, but yeah, so we'll see if this ends up being some class action where investors are coming at them, or if players, I don't even know. I mean, with all the refund stuff still in flux, like I don't know if players will have a leg to stand on with that. But
yeah, this has done a hell of a job on their reputation as well. They were very well thought of. They offer DRM copies of their stuff. They're having constant sales, 80+ hour game. With all this rich storyline and whatnot. Speaking about The Witcher, but
right.
They had a reputation coming into this, but I think a lot of that goodwill is just gone now, and that's why it really sucks for the developers, for sure, because they've got a lot of trust to build back.
Yeah, but I look at it as like if you are someone currently working on that game and you go look for a job somewhere,
the
thing that people want to hear about when they're hiring developers, and or some part of it anyway, is like, yo, have you been through the fire? Have you shipped a game? And if you walk in there and you're like, yeah, I shipped Cyberpunk, and I imagine that's like come on in. Yeah, we want you. We want you. We're not going to treat you like that. I mean, we sort of will, but like not like to that extent. And also, we know you know how to fucking deal with bad situations. So come on in. And
it's gonna be a badge of honor.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, right? I mean, it's like, hey, you went through this impossible, fucked up situation. You came out the other side, and you still want to work in games? Awesome. Come on in.
Oh, gosh.
At least I hope that's how it works. I don't know. I know definitely
with the many Polish developers out there. Yeah.
Well, there's a few more than when CD Pro. I was reading about the whole thing, and I guess Techland is Polish, and People Can Fly are both based in Poland, I think. So I think there are more options now than there were even like a few years ago for Polish developers. I hope that's the case.
That's good.
In Europe, you can work in any country now, I guess, except the UK. So if they get a job in, I don't know, there's transportation options for people who have shipped games. It's a big deal to uproot yourself. But honestly, the quarantine might be the perfect time to get a new job in games if you want to work somewhere else, because you can just do it remotely, theoretically.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we'll see what happens on the other end of that for sure. So yeah, it's whatever. Wild times. That's crazy, and I guess the last bit of this is like this is the most mainstream news coverage I've seen for a situation like this in a long time. Like the New York Times sent out a push notification to people that have like news apps or whatever installed like that. That's how big a deal it was to them. Like they pushed this out as like a top story. I got the most like mainstream media outreach for interviews that I've gotten in, for any other story in a very long time. Whether it was like requests for comment, or I did that thing for the English language for German television station.
That's crazy.
Deutsche Welles, I think is that I probably
Deutsche Welles.
They were incredibly nice, and honestly, the most well-read on this topic, like way more than I expected. Normally you do these sorts of things and you go do like a mainstream thing and it's like, hey, what's up with video games? They've come a long way since Pac-Man, and now here's, it's like, and it's like, it's that level of knowledge. Like this, every question was good, but every follow-up question was like knowledgeable. I was super impressed with how informed they were on the situation, and it was pretty fucking badass.
Cool.
And so I did that, but yeah, there's a ton of like mainstream interest, like CNN. If you scroll down to the front page of CNN.com, they have a section in there that's just like a bunch of garbage ass like shopping links, like affiliate links, the way the rest of the internet has now. But like one of them just said, so Cyberpunk sucks, get these games instead. It was like they were trying to even like they probably had some plans like, we're really going to go hard on Cyberpunk affiliate stuff. They're like, oh shit, we can't. Well, spin it the other way. Like it was just this bizarre, like seeing the way the game is turning up and how under the bus it is getting thrown is also really from mainstream media and stuff is really fucking wild.
I remember when Superman died in the comic books in the 90s, it was all over the news, and this is kind of the last. I mean, pop culture, comic book movies are all over the place, but in terms of games, this has been just insane. Within the Reddit, subthreads and subreddits and all that kind of stuff, it's understandably the topic of conversation, but it's been surprising to hear like people talk about, hey, my granduncle heard about Cyberpunk at the corner store and he was asking me questions about it. It seems to be a lot more pervasive of a media kind of saturation than I've seen for anything like this before. And I think the only comparable thing was Arkham Knight, I think, got pulled off Steam. That was like the last time anybody can think of anything even remotely similar, but it's not even nearly on the same scale as this. So it's weird.
Yeah, then that was like one version of the game. Well, I guess this is just one version of the game, but that was a weird situation. It's been a lot. Anyway, my other news story, Phantasy Star Online turned 20 years old yesterday.
Hey,
happy birthday, PSO!
Yeah,
happy birthday. That's 20 years, man. 2 decades. I was reminiscing as well, listening to the soundtrack most of yesterday. It's amazing. Just how many people I've met through that game. Jesus Christ, that are like, I met my wife inadvertently through playing that game. So,
nice.
Lots of relationships formed around that very early burgeoning, online experience. It was great. I love that game.
It's too. So good. For people who don't know why this game was a big deal, because I think it's kind of like it's a little lost on. I think if you look at it now, it's just it's a 4-player game. It's not, it wasn't some big MMO. It wasn't, but it's Diablo for consoles. It's Japanese Diablo for consoles. It's like, here we put more anime in it and some space guns. And it's fucking so goddamn good. It was so good.
Hearing you describe that makes me want to dip in.
You can. That's the awesome thing. If you are properly outfitted, you can load. I can load that game up right now here on a personal computer. I can load the Dreamcast version of it up on this PC and connect to player-run servers right now.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's pretty tight.
Like people have reverse engineered enough of it that it's still. I saw a screenshot the other day. So there's some people working on a private server version of the original Xbox Live for the original Xbox.
Oh God.
Yeah, and trying to get that stuff up and running. I saw a screenshot of someone using that or developing that, I guess, and it was a shot of it connecting to a private PSO server, and it wouldn't get in game. You could get to like the ship you select, and it would not go any further than that yet. But like eventually, you'll probably be able to play that. I think that's the last version that is not currently playable online anymore. Maybe you can get the GameCube version onto these servers. You can get Blueburst, the PC version, onto private servers. All that
No
sort of
shortage
stuff,
of ways to get your PSO fix for sure.
Exactly. And for a while, I was running my own. Yes, yeah, they made a sequel to it. You should check it out sometime. No. What about New Genesis? They put out new stuff for New Genesis. There's going to be a giant mag you can feed, a giant fucking mag.
That sounds pretty great. I will absolutely give it a shot. I want very much for that to be successful. I want to like it, basically.
PSO2 is not PSO1, and it's a pretty different, crazy thing. And I like it, but it's not the same. It's not the same, and probably nothing ever will be again.
It was a moment in time in which like I was playing online was still in its infancy for the most part. A lot of PC games had the ability and whatnot, but this was the first like kind of low impact social connected experience. It was low impact. There was only four people at a time, but you could spread out into lobbies as well. So it was a way for me to dip my toe into like playing online when I was like an awkward teen, when I was afraid of like online interactions and such. It changed my life, man.
I mostly played with friends, like some friends from IRC. Like we would get together and play, and so I didn't really hang out in the lobby area very much. We were always just
playing soccer
and our team. That's the thing. I didn't play a ton of lobby soccer because we were always just going right in. Yes, you would get in there and spam a bunch of simple chat and then join the team and go. Or I've said it before, but so that game didn't have any kind of anti-cheat anything in it because it was it was goddamn 20 years ago. And it was a console game, but like when the Game Shark came out for the Dreamcast, and you could use it in that game, you could make your own cool armor and break it all and do all this crazy shit with it. But also there was one code that was that would let you cast spells in the lobby. And you were not supposed to be able to do that. And so certain spells, if you cast them in the lobby, would crash everyone's game that was in the lobby at that time. And you would kind of bring down an entire block, if not just a individual lobby, or maybe that's the same thing. Only one lobby per block, right? Anyway, you could crash the game for a lot of people with a Game Shark. And I think that's what led to me spending even less time in the lobbies eventually was I got to get out of there before someone else does it. Because there was definitely a wave there where, and I certainly was not the only person doing that. And then they started charging for it. Oh yeah, fuck yeah, absolutely. Not all the time, but 20 years ago, I was somewhat more of an asshole then, or less. I don't know. And so yes, I would definitely get in there and do some bad shit here and there. I didn't stick with it when they put out episode 2 and they wanted to charge money, like a monthly fee for it. That felt wrong to me in a world where I was like, it's a 4-player game. It's not like a full MMO. You're not really, again, like we were talking about WoW, like they're not really like rolling out a ton of great new content for it. Yeah. They did some events and little quests and stuff that you could do online, and and all that, but it never felt like a living game in a way that made like their monthly fee feel justified to me.
Sure.
And so I didn't stick with episode 2 for more than like a month, and then didn't. And then, the game came out to other platforms, eventually came out on GameCube and Xbox and stuff. And I always would play it for a while there and kind of move on. But
that's where I kind of fell off is, the Xbox and GameCube era.
Yeah. But that GameCube controller with the keyboard in the middle of it sure was cool.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
that was neat.
I remember
What an
seeing that
awesome-
at Toys R Us and wanting it, despite not even having a GameCube.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I had one of those. I don't have one of those. But PSO, huge. And it's like you see it it's hard for me to like, Jason, you might be best equipped to answer this. Like, how influential do you think PSO was, considering that on the PC there were games like, Diablo 2 and eventually stuff like Guild Wars and stuff like that. I think there's a lot of people have been trying to draw a line from like PSO to Destiny and saying like, without this would not happen. But I think I kind of look at it as like, there were so many PC games that went through that process of like MMOs need to be a paid thing, server thing. And then eventually you got to like Guild Wars, which to me was like the pivotal moment of like, no, you don't need a monthly fee.
Right. And then, that did take a lot of nods, like it with the, instance-based quests and dungeons and things like that. I think it was, hugely influential because there, a lot of people didn't have, computers and were just solely raised on things of this, like, they didn't have Diablo. They didn't get to play that stuff. Obviously, I think very, very influential.
Yeah, I think about it in terms of like Japanese development as well, where like on some level you could probably make the argument that like a Monster Hunter doesn't happen if you don't have PSO. Like the early days of like PS2 online games and some of the stuff that they did then, that maybe that game doesn't happen the way it did without something like PSO.
And it's not to say that PSO was like the first like online enabled game. There were plenty of other Dreamcast games that were there before that, but this seemed like the first like semi MMO.
Right.
Of that, certainly the Japanese developed for sure.
Did Diablo come to PlayStation or PlayStation 2? I think Diablo 1 came to PlayStation.
Diablo 1,
PS1, yeah.
That was not online?
No, the PS1 was not online at all. And yes, Diablo on the PlayStation, that was the game that, it worked surprisingly well because they just added direct character control. But basically all the stuff they did for Diablo 3 on consoles, except for the roll. I don't think they did the roll there. But that game worked surprisingly well and was like a really fun way to play that game. As someone who played a ton of Diablo 1, like I went back and played a bunch on PlayStation because like, actually, like direct control is really neat. You wouldn't think so. You would think it would need to be this like point and click kind of thing, but it was surprisingly fun in that form. And then, that probably led to stuff like, Diablo probably led to stuff like Champions of Norath, or the EverQuest Diablo game and all that other stuff.
Name of it.
Came along. Is it Champions? Is it Champions?
No, the other one was a D&D. It was Dark Dungeon, Dark Horizon. What was the D&D?
Dark Alliance.
Yeah,
Dark Alliance.
Baldur's BGDA. Baldur's Gate
Those
Dark
games
Alliance.
were super fun on PlayStation 2. I had a lot of good times with this.
Yeah, that stuff was cool. But they ain't PSO.
Nope.
That soundtrack's still really, really good. Man, I listened to it over and over yesterday. Oh, so fantastic.
In PSO 2, you can take your like clan headquarters and redesign it to look like the ship in PSO 1.
That's tempting.
Tempting. It's pretty great. All right, we're gonna take another break and then come back with emails. Assuming I can figure out where to find them on account of I should have done that before we started recording.
Hey Jeff,
right now. Huh?
Hey, they're almost the last couple of days to pre-order this Vinnyvania shirt. I figured I'd mention that at some point here in this goddamn podcast. Store.giantbomb.com. I know. It's one more day. That shirt's great.
One more day of these Vinnyvania shirts.
Yeah.
One more day. We'll be back after this.
All right.
All right, we're back. It's time for emails.
Just regular old
Bombcast.
emails. Whoa.
Yeah, exactly. I don't need to fancy up the emails. It's just
we were done with that.
Yeah, no, this is just me. I'm just here. Bombcast at giantbomb.com is the address to send in your emails. And hey, if you're in the chat and want to ask some questions, I mean, it's like, hey, it's our last live Bombcast of the year. We will have a show next week. It's already in the can, as they say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
How do they ask questions in chat, Jeff?
There's a button at the top that says "Ask a Question" that they can use to ask a question, and maybe we'll get some questions that way as well. But first,
there's more.
That's how it go in through doorways.
Adil from Waterloo, Ontario says, thinking about the new consoles, how the new consoles are significantly more powerful got me curious. Are there any franchises or developers that you were excited to see take advantage of this newfound power? I'm personally excited to see what Capcom can do with a new Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I mean,
I was very excited for that. Sorry. That was too
I
excited.
think for me, like right now, I'm thinking about Ratchet and Clank a lot because of how crazy they are with guns and how crazy the PlayStation 5 controller can be. And I think that combination sounds really, really exciting to me. In terms of like maybe tech demo-y stuff in a way, but like I really want to see how that thing does. And yeah, I'm trying to think of any other ones. I'm not really big on. I'm trying to think like what are the big graphical showpieces for consoles? It's like driving games. It's Triple H's hair.
Mm-hmm. I'd say God of War. I really want to see what they do because God of War has always pushed the boundaries of what the PlayStations can do. I think a new God of War should be amazing, hopefully. And then Horizon 2, like the second Horizon. What we saw of the trailer of that looks like it's very much kind of be like a better looking Horizon Zero Dawn, but over time, I think that's Guerrilla, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think over time, if they have more power, they can do some really incredible stuff. I just really like Horizon Zero Dawn much, so I'm hoping that game is good.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is right now, I think a lot of games, like when you see a lot of trailers for games now, you look at it and go like, yes, this looks like a better version of this game. And I wonder like, will it be a couple of years out before we start seeing like, hey, here's the real wild shit that we maybe it's more than just, hey, here's a prettier looking version of a PS4 game. It's like, hey, here's some next level type stuff we can do hardware. But
I kind of want to see what Capcom does with Resident Evil, with Village coming out. I wonder if it's going to take advantage of like the PS5 controller at all. Maybe some of the sliding puzzles can vibrate on the triggers or whatever, or something like that. And like the jamming triggers, which has been popular with games on the PS5, could be really neat with some of the gunplay in Resident Evil 2.
Yeah,
I just want the banana hair to go away in Street Fighter 5. I want us to get to a point graphically where we don't have hair clipping in Ken's shoulders anymore. I feel bad.
I like the banana hair. It's the part where it clips into him that I have the problem with.
Gotcha.
I want to see more banana hair. I want to.
It's only on the second player side. You'd think they would have fixed that by now. God. Yeah,
like that's also the other thing is like the length of time that has gone on is also pretty crazy. Yeah, some people chat saying like,
games, I would love to see like Arc System Works and see what they can do with that engine. Push that even further. My God.
Yep. And just how will they take advantage of this additional power to make Mortal Kombat fatalities even worse next time out? Even more murderous, like that sort of. I feel like they've really leaned into this last bump in power from the last couple of consoles to just go like, let's just make this even more fucked up. And I don't know. Part of me that wants to see how many rib cages they can make fly out of that. I guess out of those bodies.
Ooh, maybe a Dragon Ball Fighters sequel. Make it even super more anime.
They're making they're still putting characters out for the current one. Super Baby
Jeff,
2.
Super
Everyone's
Baby 2.
favorite. Super Baby 2. What the fuck is a Super Baby 2? Someone tell me what Super Baby 2 is.
Jeff, you remember how Majin Vegeta, that little mini arc was really good about like examining like Vegeta's like inadequacy and how he felt with Goku?
Yes.
Imagine if that wasn't a good arc and it was terrible.
Great.
Okay,
awesome.
That's what Super Baby 2 is.
Is there a Super
Goku's
Baby
a child.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Why not? So is this from
Dragon Ball Grand Tour?
GT? Okay, I was gonna say, is this from GT then? If he's a kid, and then it's okay. Maybe that makes more sense. You could have just said it's GT, and I would have been like, all right. Is there a Super Baby 1? Is there a Super Baby 3? These are my questions.
There's Baby, and then Baby. I think
Super Baby.
I think Baby doesn't win, so then Baby takes over Vegeta. I'm misremembering a lot of this because GT felt like a fever dream.
Sounds great.
And Goku's a kid the whole time.
GT sounds amazing. Sounds like something that I should be watching.
Mondo, cool.
And
Mondo.
Let's see here. Let's get on to our next email. Hank in Maryland writes in, when I was around 11 years old, I was frequently at a friend of mine's house and we would play SNES as much as we could. He had a copy of Pilot Wings and I became obsessed with it. I would always suggest that we play Pilot Wings whenever I got the chance. After some time, my friend began hiding the game so he didn't have to play it. When I asked him where it was, he would say something like, my mom took it, or I don't know where it is. It was the only game of his I can remember that mysteriously went missing. I never pressed him on the issue, and I really wasn't aware that he didn't like the game at the time. Have any of you ever had this experience, or have you ever hidden a game from a friend that you were tired of playing?
I tried to break a TV that I shared with my roommate in college that I owned, because we got the Dreamcast, and I for some reason stayed in the dorms for 3 years. Most people left after 2, but I just decided to stick it out in the same room that I had, and I got paired up with a freshman as a junior, and he never left that fucking room. So I had no private time. He would just sit there, play video games all day, and at one point I got really frustrated when he was at class, and I tried to pour water in the back of this old TRT TV. I think it survived. I actually think it survived. I was just hoping to get him to fucking leave you ever live in the same room as somebody and they never leave except for class? You just have no private time at all, no personal time. It was very, very frustrating. And I
no, Griffin, I have no idea what that's like.
I think I just kind of lost it at some point, and I would rather not have the TV at all and not be able to play games myself than have him just sit there. And especially when I'm trying to study or do work, he would just play with the volume up and everything like that. It was beyond frustrating. Apart from that, just trading games back and forth as kids. I never had to hide anything, but that's definitely my bad memory of college Dreamcast. And I love that Dreamcast, man. I was ready to cut my arm off to spite my face. So that's my memory.
Yeah. No, I could definitely see getting to that point.
Yeah.
I had to hide a copy of Mario Kart 64. I was living with a roommate, and these two guys they were constantly over, just constantly, and we get into very, very heated Mario Kart 64 fights. It would almost come to fists every now and again because he kept trying to do the skip in Wario's stadium, and we would just do that over and over. That's all he would do. He wouldn't even play the fucking game, and I'm like, dude, just play the game, and he wouldn't do it. Anyway, so I took the game because it was my game, and I put it in my room. I said, "Fuck you, it's mine." I took my game and I went home.
Nice.
to your room.
Yep.
I mean, it was in the game. That's valid strats, man. That's a valid strategy.
It's cheating. It's cheating. Oh, God damn it.
Next, you're going to tell me throws are cheap. Come on, man. It's in the game. And then part 2 of that is, and that means you should stop playing it because it's a bad game.
No.
All right. Fair enough.
It's a good game.
Let's see here. This is This has been going on for a little while here in a few different forms, but Josh sent this in. I was ordering from Wendy's the other day and noticed they now have streamer meals.
Oh,
Sounds disgusting, but it just looks like regular combos that get rebranded to have like some like influencer's name on them. And the question here is, does putting a streamer's name on it make any one of you want to buy a non-gaming related product? And if so, which streamer and product? Is there any like endorsement deal out there that would sway you one way or the other?
I think I got less likely to buy stuff, especially when they started having like Gordon Hayward and like athletes show up in gaming stuff. Like it kind of felt odd. I don't follow enough of the streamer culture to know like many of the names, so I probably wouldn't really vary me one way or the other on a purchasing thing, especially fast food. Like Wendy's is kind of middle tier to me now compared to what I have available in our area is Burger King, which is awful. This specific Burger King is terrible, and there's a Popeyes that we always go to. Popeyes is like after that, even that chicken sandwich, the rest of their menu is far better than Wendy's to me, so I would avoid Wendy's in general.
Okay.
I like a Wendy's.
Me too.
I always like a Wendy's. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm trying to think. Is there any like, I don't think there's anyone out there that would like sway me one way or the other for that stuff. If any, I guess maybe might be a little less likely to be like, I don't want to, this seems kind of crappy in a way that I sort of don't want to support it because it shouldn't keep happening or something like that. But also like at some point when it comes to people like that, it's like, hey, you go get yours. I don't know. There's another guy that like it's sounds like there's like a series of local kitchens for rent or something like that, running like weird delivery only restaurants and stuff like that. And so as part of like to get that out there, so a streamer or I guess a YouTube guy. I don't even think he's necessarily doing game stuff or not, but like, I guess did a full menu and is just like, I just launched a series of restaurants was the tweet. I forget the guy's name. But it was like this idea of just like, Mr. Beast, I think is what it was. And which you'll be hearing from the Beastcast lawyer. And it was like, here's a whole like it was framed as I got my own chain of restaurants. Well, no, but that's kind of awesome in a weird way. Like if someone came to me and said, would you like to do a deal to put a bunch of shitty food in delivery only restaurants around it, I would consider it. I'd be like, yes, I too can have garbage curly fries with my name on it.
You have to be really careful with those though, because a lot of them, especially in SF, have been shut down for like bad health code violations because without like an actual storefront, it's really easy to not know they're there at all. So they're just a bunch of people in a kitchen. Obviously, even like COVID stuff makes it a little dangerous, but just some of the horror stories around those shadow kitchens. Like either they impersonate real restaurants who aren't on Grubhub or whatever, and they try to get business that way, or they just have the worst working conditions ever in these weird like sweatshop kitchens.
One of the top replies to that guy's announcing that he had all those restaurants, somebody saying, "Yeah, I got a chicken sandwich and it was raw."
That's not good.
That's kind of the problem. It's like there are no shortage. I think that's the issue with, well, no, whatever. I'm not going to sit here and soapbox about it, but like, I think if you are a person who has built up your personality in such a way that you've got all of these fly by night things that want to do business with you, you owe it to yourself and your brand, if not your fans, to be very selective and careful about how you spend that influence. Right. I mean, it's very easy to go slap your name on a bunch of shit, but yeah, if people are getting fucking raw chicken sandwiches or whatever the hell.
What would the Gerstmann meal be at McDonald's? Because we had the Travis Scott already. We had somebody else recently. I forget who. What would you pick for your go-to order at McDonald's?
It would be 2 McChicken sandwiches plain with cheese, and it would be 2 double cheeseburgers with ketchup only, and it would be a large fries. And that's probably it. But then maybe also nuggets.
Hefty meal. Wow. That is like a middle of a road trip kind of meal.
Yeah. That's sometimes you just got to live. And I don't go to McDonald's as often as I used to, which has resulted in when I do go, I go.
Oh God, I haven't eaten lunch yet. I think
Then you gotta go.
I think I might order the Gersman.
Yeah, fucking, and you know, you want to stack them up or do weird shit about it, go for it. I don't know, fucking stack the McChickens together
around with your food.
They're gonna put that in the ad, Jeff. At this point,
Yeah.
I don't fucking know.
I don't fucking know. Hey, get a double cheeseburger and throw a McChicken in the middle of it with the bun. Fuck it.
I gotta say,
2020, who cares?
ordering an egg puck on anything at McDonald's has changed my life.
Oh, really? They can do that?
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
like the egg thing from the commercial, right? Where they put. Oh no,
hell yeah.
I want to make that at home at some point. Try to
Oh,
make an
Rory, I got a mold for you.
Okay,
Yeah, there's just,
all
you
right,
just get
I'm
the
coming
thing.
over.
You pour it in and it go. And you
It's a
pour it in
ramekin
and
or
go,
something.
right?
Yep.
But they have the one that's like, it's like a ring you put directly on the griddle. So I need to try that out. I need that in my life.
You could even use a cookie cutter.
Okay, I'm gonna make Christmas tree shaped egg.
Oh, delicious.
Yeah.
Now we're playing with fire.
Okay.
I'm
All
getting
right.
really excited
Yeah.
about this.
Yeah.
A friend
That's-
had texted me about wanting to start one of those shadow kitchen businesses, but all he had said was bagels. And then the next day I see him in an empty kitchen by himself, like online, making a bunch of bagels.
Bagel purists are pretty particular about their bagels. So if he's not shipping out the water from New York or something like some of the
Yeah, I was
bagel
gonna
places
say.
around here do, it's gonna be tough row to hoe. But best of luck. Keep that shit clean, please. That's all I ask.
Keep that shit clean. Alan in Nashville is out there also reporting on some stuff that doesn't sound clean. This email is titled "Early Access Pizza." Hey guys, it appears early access has leaked into the food industry. This marketing tactic feels desperate to me, and I can't imagine anyone actually being excited to try a pizza before everyone else. Who in the actual hell is this for? Screenshot attached. This is a screenshot of an iOS notification from the Papa John's app, which already fuck, do you have the Papa John's app installed and also have notifications turned on? But hey, here's the text of it. Try the new epic stuffed crust pizza before everyone else. Early access is just another Papa Rewards exclusive. Tap on rewards to order.
That's really complicated because, like, if what was the offer again? What was the item?
It's a epic stuffed crust
pizza.
That must be not that different than the rest of the pizzas they're already making, because you can't, like, I mean, pizza is really different compared to like something like the McDonald's kitchen, which has to be set up in a certain way to make certain products. Pizza you just kind of throw in to make them, but that is kind of interesting. I hopefully you get a refund if it's not good.
I'm gonna need 30 epic stuffed crust pizzas in the last 30 days.
Have you ever had a good stuffed crust pizza though? It always seemed the commercials for it make it seem like you're just pulling that cheese out of there. They wind up a lot of times like basically like string cheese in the crust.
Yeah, it's like someone slid a bunch of string cheese in the crust of the pizza. Yes, no, that's exactly how. Yes.
It doesn't melt at the same rate as the cheese on top of the pizza, so it always winds up being this weird variable. Like either one side's boiling and one side's cold or something like that. I believe the technology has probably advanced since the last time I tried, but
Pizza tech.
It's been a while. Yeah, pizza tech.
Yeah. It sucks, but I like it. I guess is what I would say about a stuffed crust pizza is that it's usually shitty in a way, but I'm okay with that.
I'm here for it though. Oh my god.
Yeah.
We need to get our Pizza Today subscription back.
Surprisingly, Little Caesars does a pretty good stuffed crust.
Oh yeah.
At least.
Do you guys hear? Do you guys hear about this McDonald's China sandwich they're making?
Yes.
Holy
yes.
shit. While we're on the subject of fast food,
okay,
I'll let Jan take it away.
All right. So of course I got mentioned in this a couple times, but it is a McDonald's sandwich from China that has spam as the primary protein. It's like, okay, cool, a spamwich, I'm down with that. But probably because the ice cream machines are always broken, they drizzle on some Oreo crumbles and cream on top of the sandwich.
You gotta do something with the Oreos.
Don't know how that taste flavor combination would work.
I will say that, sweet spam is a thing.
It sounds almost like a donair. In Canada, they make donairs, which are basically like meat, but with sweet sauce on top. It's kind of like I don't know how to describe it, like a waffle cone with meat, but also a sweet sauce instead of a savory sauce. Which will, if I'm looking for like a crepe kind of thing, I usually want one or the other, but people seem to love them. So, hey.
You know what? Maybe I'll go make one after this.
Maybe.
Yeah. And there's I think McDonald's does spam on the menu in Hawaii too, don't they?
Yeah, they
I
do.
Say there's other
They used to give you like a little cup full of pineapples with every order.
Oh,
that was a long time ago. That was tight.
Fuck. That's yeah. I wish I had a little cup of pineapples right now. All right, Josh, with the final email question. Josh in the UK, which is the best Christmas song? That's all he's got.
I think we talked about it on. I was on something. I think on UPF. The Vince Guaraldi Charlie Brown Christmas album is not one song, but it is the soundtrack to the season for me. Apart from that, I don't even. I'm not even say ironically. Jesus is Born Today by Alabama. No, the Oak Ridge Boys Christmas album. That shit bangs so hard. Yolanda loves it too. Jesus is born today. It is his birth. I listened to a lot of country growing up because my I'm so proud to see. It's great. Look it up. That's my favorite Christmas song.
All right.
Yeah,
I've been
Oak Ridge Boys have ever been followed up by Luda.
Drop it.
Anyone have any other? I'm trying to think because I'm not a big Christmas music person.
Likewise.
Yeah. No, I like it in its. I don't know. There's a time and place for it, I guess. When you're wrapping presents,
mostly. Yeah,
Christmas mostly. I listen to the Soma FM, the Christmas in Frisco radio station. They've got a bunch of like kind of irreverent Christmas songs. That's kind of fun. I don't know.
Santa got run over by a reindeer type stuff, or like filthy stuff. Is it like or grandma?
Sometimes filthy stuff. Yeah,
same thing.
Yeah, filthy stuff typically.
Yes. I get. Yeah, I have some album of disgusting X-rated Christmas stuff songs around here somewhere. You just end up with stuff like that.
I need T-Pain to release a Christmas album.
Has he not done one yet?
Yeah. No, I feel like that'd be a Christmas cash gold mine for T-Pain.
Tied into McDonald's. He's already well in with McDonald's, man. Just put that CD in the Happy Meal.
Oh my God. I'd buy so many Happy Meals. Put it back on hit clips, baby.
Yeah. Some questions out of the chat here. Paul W. Graham asks, do you think that the Cyberpunk refund push made did you think that improved did it make their PR better or worse? Most busted game launches don't get this protracted of a news cycle. It did kind of extend it out a little bit further, huh? Kept it in the news.
I can't say it's good for them at all. I think the biggest side effect from this might be having Sony and Microsoft, especially Sony, having to have a more robust refund system in place. I know Australia has a really strong law coming into place. EU as well has been really pushing hard for refunds for digital items. And I think in the end, maybe this can jumpstart their ability to either allow game demos for a little bit on PlayStation before you buy it, or just allow like a refund like Steam does. I don't know if I'm sure they'd fight really hard against all that kind of stuff, but now that they have been forced to build some of this infrastructure around refunds, maybe it can be expanded wider beyond just Cyberpunk. So silver lining, maybe, who knows?
I could see them spinning this into like a redemption story once like the game is in a stable enough state. Yeah, saying like, oh, we're doing the gamers right. Now you can actually be Cyberpunk everywhere.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like they were trying to ride that edge all through the marketing for the game and all that other stuff. And also like the goodwill they built up in the Witcher era was like based on like, hey, here's a bunch of like extended support for the game and free content and all this other stuff. And they talked a big game about this game in a similar way. So like over time, they probably do have plans. And of course they are eventually going to spin this out into a multiplayer thing. But
that seems like
this puts them in a pretty deep hole.
Yeah. The multiplayer stuff, it seems like they were walking away from any kind of time frame, like 2021, maybe even later. No. Jeff, have you tried this on Stadia? I've been hearing some really decent stuff from people trying this on Stadia.
I did.
I have not.
I tried it.
Yeah.
Oh, Jason did?
Yeah, it really wasn't bad. There was two like graphical options. There was like a performance and a pretty mode or whatever. It ran okay. It was really quite, yeah. They were
Weird.
offering a deal where if you bought Cyberpunk, you got your free Stadia.
Oh my
like
God.
the controller and a Chromecast. So it's like, okay, all right, fine.
Hey, might as well.
give it a try.
I've heard just like it's weird to think of us being in a place where Stadia is the best place to play Cyberpunk. That's bizarre. Never thought I'd hear that sentence spoken aloud.
It probably depends on, because if you're not paying for the Stadia Pro subscription, I think you're limited to 30 frames a second. So that might not be great. No, I wanted to check that out, but then honestly, after just the amount of number of times that we have had to talk about Cyberpunk over the last couple of weeks here, I got to the point where I'm like, I don't want to think about it much anymore, but it's the only news going on and it's a crazy story. So yeah, of course we'll talk about it, but
Exactly.
yeah. And a lot of these questions here are about it, but let's see here. Gadaba says, what are you hoping or thinking has to get better for 2021 and onwards for gaming?
Free vaccines with gaming would help a lot.
Yeah, right. That'd be nice. So yeah, I go back to what I was saying about Ratchet and some of that stuff. Is I kind of just want to see where stuff gets to once more and more developers are thinking exclusively about this generation of consoles and the PC, and that we kind of leave this. We're in this cross-gen phase still, where there's a lot of stuff that's going to come out on both, and I want to see games built from the ground up for next generation hardware. Even Miles Morales is not that game. That game is out on PS4, but obviously they were building it for PS4 for a long time, and all that stuff. So I want to see what they can do when they start a game after the specs are already locked down. Not even like, we're going to build it, and then along the way have to make some changes as the PS5 gets developed further along, as the Xbox Series X specs lock in. I want to see the game that was like, specs are locked, we know what this thing's going to do, and now let's build a game that takes advantage of all that. So like something that comes out next holiday season, or even maybe even beyond that. Like, I want to see that sort of stuff. But what has to happen for games? I think the Cyberpunk thing gets us to a place where it now reaches a large enough number of people through the mainstream media and all that other stuff that hopefully you get to a point where the platform holders or whoever has to step in and be like, okay, we need to assure some baseline level of not performance, not, I don't know what it is. It's a delicate thing because you don't want Microsoft or Sony coming in and saying your game must run like this. You don't want them to impose too many more bullshit laws on developers that get in the way of how they want to make a game. But something has to change in regards to how fucked up games ship. And also I think maybe this gets to a point where this is the thing that prevents devs from going gold and pressing up discs for games that absolutely positively need a day one patch to be acceptable. That probably has to go away now.
Yeah.
And should have before this, but that's probably the first thing I would think of.
For me, I think supply chain stuff for PC parts. Like I would really like to have.
Yeah.
It's been, even when I bought that 1080 Ti, it was like I said, was available used for much more than what it was. And now it's just like, I know AMD is obviously making stuff for consoles as well, which is probably where a lot of their stock is going. And obviously the COVID has shut down a lot of supply chains and everything like that. But it's been pretty frustrating to see 3080s get taken up by scalpers every time they come online. It's just like they all go away right away, which is frustrating for me as a consumer who would like to buy one.
Yeah. That situation has to change. I guess like NVIDIA did the thing where you can kind of like wait in line for like a first come first served.
EVGA has a queue system. I don't know about NVIDIA itself. There have been a lot of tricks, and there's a bunch of Discords which have like, drops being tweeted out, and you just go there right away, and that's the only way you can get them. But I think EVGA did a queue system. It's just a matter of getting into the queue and waiting. So it's not impossible to find them now. I know people obviously are finding them, but it's been really tough.
Yeah, I think someone earlier in chat has said that they waited in the queue for a month, and then their number came up and they were able to get one, and it wasn't
Awesome.
Obviously it took a month, but also like how many months have I sat here not doing anything about it? And so maybe that is the way to go. We had another question. I didn't end up taking it, but it's come up a few times, like that consoles are also still really hard to find. And the question was around like, hey, it was someone in Sweden who hadn't seen any advertising for new consoles, which I can't say I've seen a lot of. I mean, I guess I don't watch any television, so where would I even see ads?
I see more Oculus ads.
Huh? Really?
I'm seeing more Oculus ads than anything for PlayStation 5 or Microsoft. To be honest with you, I see some tie-ins, like if more for games really than the consoles themselves. But I definitely don't think they're pushing as hard for the console level advertising.
Yeah, I don't think they should. I mean, I get the impression like these almost feel like soft launches for the console, between like they're impossible to find and they probably need more games and all that stuff to line up before they really kind of hit go on some big marketing budget. And maybe that's like they're going to play the Super Bowl, and right, that's going to happen.
Yeah,
football happened.
Yeah, they're going up to the playoffs now. They have done everything they can to not cancel any games outright. I believe they played them all, but a lot of them have been delayed very long time.
So maybe you see some Super Bowl ad or something, right? I don't know, but that all depends on if they can get back in stock and when they can get back in stock and all that sort of stuff. So, and yeah, I think seeing the fucking vulture marketplaces of the world, like a StockX, get into graphics cards and consoles is like. Like of course,
yeah, totally.
But also, it's like a new level of disgusting to see, because it's just incentivizing scalping even further and incentivizing people to set up all their systems of bots and all this other stuff to get in. Now that there's like an even easier, smoother marketplace to move that shit, it's just frustrating. And I feel like that's like you gotta, if you're the people making this stuff, like you're just destroying your consumer goodwill, like by making these things that much harder to get. But in the case of the consoles, like these were always going to be sold out through most of this year anyway, because that's just how consoles are, whether they're being scalped or not. So, maybe they start marketing a lot harder when you can get that stuff again. And that would make sense to me. I don't know. And G-Valo says, make this the last question. Do you think Bethesda is watching this whole Cyberpunk fiasco and going back to the drawing board on their engine?
Oof.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's been weird to see people accept the Bethesda jank after Cyberpunk, like as bad as Fallout 76 was and as bad as some of the other games that they have launched. A lot of people are going back and like, wow, Bethesda at least didn't do the Cyberpunk thing, which has been kind of a weird turn to see people, because those games are notoriously buggy. But
right, and that's the thing, is like Fallout 4 on PlayStation 4 was, from what I've seen, and granted, this PS4 copy of Cyberpunk I have is still sealed, but when I played Fallout 4 on the PlayStation 4, it ran like fucking shit. And it had all the same stuff of like, oh, this door didn't open, this quest objective didn't appear right. Like all that stuff was just as fucked, and it sucked. So, when
I was working on New Vegas, I mean, PlayStation 4 was always the hardest one to get everything working on. And I don't want to spoil anything too much, but at some point it became very clear that if you loaded up all the
PlayStation 3, that was PlayStation 3.
Oh, right. Yeah. That was, 10 years ago. But getting all those expansions into memory would just not work. And we still ship those DLCs, and you could load them all up on a PS3, but they would generally run out of memory at some point and just crash.
Ooh,
So it's always been a buggy.
Those games on PS3 was really dark. So I don't know. Bethesda, I don't know what Bethesda is probably looking now and going like, well, got bought by Microsoft, we'll be fine, or something. But I wonder.
Those games are many years away, though, right? Like Starlink and Elder Scrolls 6 or whatever it is they have not barely put anything out about them, so they have time if they want to rework it. Hopefully, Cyberpunk will encourage people to delay stuff rather than ship it out in a bad state. But that's
if Cyberpunk is out there selling 13 million copies or whatever it is, like I don't know what message that sends.
Sure,
but because it's like, hey, it's 13 million copies, but some of those got refunded. Also, your reputation got trashed in the process. What's the knock-on effect of that? Like that remains to be seen. But so it's hard to know what lesson gets learned here. Long term anyway. And yeah, Starfield, I think some people are starting to try to spitball and say, yeah, maybe Starfield comes out next year. Maybe that's a Q4 next year game. Like, I don't know. But Todd Howard was out there talking a little bit about the game and some aspect of the tech and stuff. And it sounded like they were overhauling parts of it, but it didn't necessarily sound like something where it was like a complete move away from the existing technology. So remains to be seen how well that tech adapts to a open space game and the work they're doing to it and all that other stuff. So, but I would hope that, but I would have hoped this about Fallout 4 even, that they had learned from previous games that they need to ship them in a better state. And even the PC Fallout 4 was, had issues. It just, you were able to brute force your way past all the performance issues because it was on a PC. And so, I don't know. Like I said, I don't necessarily think that the lessons learned from this sort of stuff are quite as cut and dry as like, oh, gamers hated it. It's like, well, no.
I think
like, yes, but like what?
I think Bethesda also has a reputation of letting modders fix their games. That has been the knock on a lot of their games in the past. Like any problems that come up, they just mod it out and they'll make it better. I don't think. I know there are mods for Witcher 3, but I don't think CD Projekt Red has the same ability to just kind of like. And that's a lazy way of doing things on Bethesda's part, and I doubt they would ever say that as being a driving factor behind their shipping buggy games. But that has always been kind of even for the diehard Bethesda fanboys, they will always say like, hey, if you don't like it, just mod it out. Don't worry about it. It's no big deal. Which is really
not really an option for console players.
And
also, I don't know. It's those games. All these games we're talking about sold incredibly well. So it's hard to look at this and go like, well, what would you change? I think the Cyberpunk situation is vastly different because of how big this story has become and Sony pulling it off of its storefront. Like that opens us into some uncharted territory that Bethesda never got to.
Sure.
And now you look at it and go like, well, maybe they should have. I don't know. Like Fallout 4 ran pretty goddamn bad on a PlayStation 4 at launch. I certainly felt that, like in retrospect, looking at what happened here, I go like, hey, maybe they should have fucking yanked that shit off too. But hey, we'll see. And also like, what does this do in the future for any other buggy game that ships? Are you going to have people calling for blood and refunds? At the drop of a hat, like for anything, and how does this impact refund policies? And does some politician see this the same way that with loot boxes? It was like, well, we've got to get in here and say a bunch of shit. Like, do we start seeing legislation around or attempts at legislation around refund practices and stuff like that? To like how many does Cyberpunk blow open a bunch of weird doors because of this stuff? That's the stuff I'm looking at, is like, how many do we see class action lawsuits? Do we see like someone attempt to pass a law about digital refunds, which would be great. I mean, those like players should have more options at their disposal when it comes to, consumer rights and stuff like that. So
agreed.
Games should work when they ship also. Like, I hate to, I know that's fucking bold. But hey, what if games worked when you bought them? What if when you paid money for a game, it worked? That would be, a lot of games do that. Most, in fact, are pretty good at doing that. But boy, when they don't, they sure as fuck don't. And that's it. That's all I got. That's going to do it for us here this week for the Giant Bombcast. Shout out to Ben and Brad who are out this week.
Spreading the word of Satan.
That's right. Yeah,
they're going
getting
door
the
to
word
door
about our Dark Lord out there where it needs to be in the streets. And
in the
we
streets.
love them for it. Yeah. Let's see. So yes, there will be a show next week, and we've got some additional stuff hitting this week and next. And then when we get back in January, we start really, really, really hammering out all the Game of the Year stuff, and we're looking at probably sometime in mid to late January for that stuff. We're still kind of hammering out some
if you're watching this live
processes and such for that.
I'll be doing a little Warcraft later on today. I'm going to take a little break, but around 3 p.m. Pacific, I will be streaming some Shadowlands. So if you want to stick around for the rest of the day, I'll do that.
Yeah. Tomorrow we'll have a Flash stream.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one too.
What do you got? What are your Flash games? What are your must-hit Flash games? Like a meet and what are we talking about here?
I was talking about it with Ben, and then a lot of it is actually Flash animations that I'd love to watch again with everyone. Flash games, geez, it's literally in the thousands of games. So
you need to check out. I think I read this right, but Homestar Runner dropped a Flash game like this week.
Oh,
what?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
like right before Flash shuts down, they're just like, oh yeah, here's the new thing for this long running goof, which is fucking hilarious. Put that out right before Flash goes away. So, will that be the last Flash game? Who knows? Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us here. Everyone out there, I hope you have a fantastic holidays. Hope you have get a chance to take some kind of break through all of this. And, like I said, we'll have a Bombcast up next week, Beastcast, all that other stuff. But, we'll be back in the new year with more shit for that ass. I think that's the official term.
Yeah.
We'll see you then. Take care, everybody.